There are over 400,000 podcasts. The hard part is not getting on a podcast interview, it's getting on the right one to produce real business results. Hi, this is Tom Schwab with Interview Valet, and I just wanted to share with you briefly our system, our process, our secret to finding the right podcasts. You see, it's not magic. It's a system that we have refined over 4+ years on hundreds of clients, on tens of thousands of podcast interviews. And it really boils down to 4 key factors that you should look for in any podcast that you want to go on as a guest. The first one is obvious. It's the podcast. Now, most people will say, I want to be on a big podcast. Well, while there are more fish in the ocean than there are in a barrel, if you can find a barrel of fish, you are much better to go there. That's why podcast guesting is all about focus. So as we look at podcasts, we look at certain things. We'll look at, is their audience your ideal buyers? Are they focused? Do they want to hear from people like you? We'll also look at things like, do they post frequently? That's a dead giveaway whether or not they've got a loyal following. How many episodes have they posted? The truth is that most podcasts that die within the first 10 episodes. It's called pod fade. And you don't want to be on episode 8 or maybe 12 when they decide that it's no longer fun and they don't want to do it. You'll never get that long-term benefit that's so important on podcast interview marketing. Another thing to look at is the reviews. The more ratings and reviews, the more certain you can be that that audience is engaged. Now, a lot of people will say download numbers. Now, the problem with downloads is that the only people that know it are the host and the hosting company. And by terms of service, the hosting company can't share that. They do share global numbers. And Rob from Libsyn, the largest hosting provider, has said that the top 20% of podcasts typically get 1,500 downloads per episode. Those are the types of podcasts that we focus on for our clients. The second thing to look at is the website. You see, every time you're a podcast guest, you're going to get a link back from the show notes. First, make sure they have show notes, but look at the popularity of the website. It's called an Alexa score. The lower the number, the better. For example, Wikipedia is probably within the top 5 of all Alexa scores. For Interview Valet, we've got an Alexa score of about 500,000, which means we're in the top 500,000 of all websites out there. The other one to look at is the Moz score, which is an authority score. It's a logarithmic number from 1 to 7. The higher the number, the better. And why these links are so important is that they are an authority signal to the search engines that says, hey, we value this site. You should too. It's very important. We've had clients that had a hard time ranking for their own name on the website. I can think of one, Aaron Walker with View from the Top. You see, when he started out, there was also a professional football player by the same name. Guess who ranked higher? There was also a movie from the 1990s with the same name as his company. Guess which one ranked higher? Well, with time, as he was doing podcast interviews, he got more and more backlinks so that he ranked higher in organic traffic when people just put in the name than those other professional athletes or a movie. So those backlinks are important. We have some clients that work with us just for an SEO, a search engine optimization, backlink strategy. The third thing we look at is the reach. How many people are actually going to find out about this podcast interview? Now, there's ways to look at that. There could be social media reach, see how much they promote it on social media, what their following is, but also check out their email. Many podcasters will send out an email every week about their podcast. This can reach people that don't even listen to podcasts, that can find out about you, your service, your product, what you offer. A great way to do this is to subscribe to the podcaster's email. See how much they're promoting it. So we've talked about the podcast, the website, the reach. The fourth thing that we look at is experience with previous customers. You see, there are some podcasts that are big but have never converted well. A lot of times that's a podcast that may ask the same 5 or 6 questions to the all of the guests. And it's really hard with those standardized questions to tell your story, to get people to know, like, and trust you. One of the things that you can do is look at what other guests they've had on. If they're like you, it's probably a good indication that it was good for them and it will be good for you also. You see, with 400,000 podcasts, you don't have time to go on all of them. You want to focus getting the maximum return on investment. That's not only about dollars invested, but time invested. I've been on over 1,200 podcast interviews. I was the crash test dummy that came up with podcast interview marketing. And to be blunt with you, there's probably half of those podcast interviews that did nothing. They didn't move the needle. They were a waste of time. I don't want you to waste your time. You've got something to share with the world, an idea, a product, or a service. The only thing that's holding you back is your ideal customers don't know you exist. You're obscure. So when you go on podcast interviews, make sure you've done the work beforehand to find out, is it an ideal one? Look at the podcast. Look at the website. Look at the reach. Look experience with other guests. If you don't have the time to do that, there are agencies out there that can help you with that. We specialize in podcast interview marketing and would love to talk to you about how we could help you.